The topic, I'm going to go through the story of the Lashon Hara of Miriam about Moshe, but it's connected to the Gemara. There's a Gemara in Brachos, because one aspect of that story is the fact that Moshe was Mispalel. Moshe was Mispalel for her. And Moshe prayed for her. Okay, but his prayer was a very short prayer. So the Gemara in Brachos takes up the issue about praying at length, a lengthy prayer as opposed to a short prayer. So I'm going to try and explain that idea. When should a person be involved in a lengthy prayer, and when is it okay to be a short prayer? What's the reason behind that? Okay. In fact, I'll start off with that Gemara. All right, I can start now, right? I think so. I can start now. Okay. My name is Rabbi Mann.
Rabbi Mann?
Rabbi Mann. Revuen Mann. Revuen Mann. Aleichem Shalom. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yechiel Spira.
Nice to meet you. Nice to be here today. Okay, I think I'll start off with the Gemara. I'm going to go through the various sources. Just a question of what order. I don't think it makes that much difference. Okay, so there's an interesting Gemara in Brachos. And Daf Lamed Dalet, if anybody wants to look it up. Okay, there's two incidents. Occurrences.
Aleph Obez.
Lamed Dalet Amid Aleph.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you all hear me? Am I loud enough? Okay, good. So, Tana Rabbanan. Okay, the rabbis learned. Yeah, you have the air conditioner over here, so you probably can close that helps. I'll tell you one thing about Yerushalayim. It's a noisy city. It's a city of noise.
It's intense.
Especially when I have to live with these demonstrators that have, because I'm on Bartanura. I'm right next to the Prime Minister's thing. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. It's a whole other story. Anyways, so Tan Rabbanan, the rabbis learned, or rabbis taught, Ma'aseh b'Talmud Echad, there was an incident with one Talmud, a student, Sheyarad L'fnei HaTeva, who went up to daven for the Yamid. B'fnei Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer was, he was there. Okay, he was the big gadol. Vayamarech Yosem Midai. He went on Yosem Midai, more than is appropriate. Daven for a long, long time. Okay. Amru lo Talmidav, so the Talmidim of Rabbi Eliezer said to him when the guy was finished. I don't think they told him while he was davening because everybody has to listen. Okay, but afterwards, Kama Arkan who's there. It's like, how long is this guy davening? They criticized it. It's too long. Okay. So davening should be appropriate. It shouldn't be too short, but there's a limit also. Okay. So what did he say? Amalahem, he said to them, Klum Marach Yosef Moshe Rabbeinu. Is he going on longer than Moshe Rabbeinu? What did he? It says pertaining to Moshe, Es Arboam Hayom, the Es Arboam Halayla. So Moshe Rabbeinu davened for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, of course, you all know what the circumstances was. That was after the Chet HaEgel, after the sin of the golden calf, and that was like the worst. That and the Meraglim were the worst sins in Jewish history. So Moshe had to be mispalel. Moshe had to pray for the nation. He prayed twice actually. One is that God shouldn't destroy the nation. God wanted it. God's first reaction. Okay, don't think that God changed. God didn't change His mind. The Torah is simply communicating to us that the Jews at that point in time were worthy of destruction. But Hashem hinted to Moshe because God said, "Heref mimeni v'ash midein." Okay, God said to Moshe, sort of like, let me be, leave me alone, so to speak. Because God speaks in the language of man when He communicates with us, and I'll destroy them. So Moshe derived from that. He said, well, okay, that means if I don't let you alone, because God is hinting to me that I have the power. The matter is dependent on me. I have the ability to, if I say the right things, to intervene, and I can save the Jews. So then he was misfollowed for the Jews. Okay, then he came down and he punished the sinners and so on and so forth. Then he had to go back and pray for the nation. Okay, because there were other people that perhaps Hashem would want to punish. So then how long did he pray for? How long did he stay up on the mountain? 40 days and 40 nights. And to get a complete mechila. He didn't get a complete mechila the first time. The first time was basically a stay of execution. But now he had to get a complete mechila. And that's when they didn't have the luchos. He smashed the luchos. Okay, so the situation was dire, except for the fact that I said a stay of execution. That gave him the opportunity to be mispalel for a complete mechila. And then when he came down with the luchos, and that was Yom Kippur, and that's when the Jews. So he had a job to do. How long was he up there being mispalel? 40 days and 40 nights. All right, that's an interesting phenomenon. I don't know if anybody. Well, sometimes you have situations. It's ongoing. All right. Sometimes you pray for something, and hopefully you get a response. Sometimes you don't.
Is this possibly the origin? Well, I've heard the minhag. I never knew the reason. They say like people go to the Kozel 40 days in a row for something, or could this be the origin?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, if it's not, then it should be, because that was successful. That had a good end. Okay, so so then after that, getting back to our story, so they were complaining that this guy is taking too long. He wasn't taking 40 days and 40 nights. So Revuen said, it's all right. He's not doing any longer than Moshe Rabbeinu, who was mispalel for 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, that's the first story that we have. Okay, then there's another Maisa. Shuv Maisa b'Talmud Echad. Another case, in front of Rabbi Yorad Lefnei Ateva b'Fnei Rabbi Eliezer. He went in front of the Yomud. He davened for the Yomud in the presence of Rabbi Eliezer. Vayim Makatzer Yosem Yidai. And he was very brief, davened very, very quickly, very short tefillah. The exact opposite, okay, of the first guy. So the students complain, you can't get it right. You're davening too long, they complain. You're davening too short, they complain. So what happened was, they complained. And Amr Lo Talmidav, Kama Katzron, who's that? Katzar, how quick, how short, was this guy. Apparently they so what are you complaining about? I don't know, some people like a longer davening, some people like a shorter davening. But what are you complaining about? I guess, perhaps they felt that when it's tefillah, you're standing before Hashem, and you're putting forth your prayers to Hashem, it shouldn't be so quick. It's like, maybe it's lacking in kavod. All right? I mean, I don't like long and, fetching out the davening. I don't like that at all. I have no patience. But at the same time, I do like, when I was rabbi of the shuls that I was a rabbi of in the course of my career, okay? So, the one that davening on the Yontif, I said, don't run through it. It has no time, like everybody's familiar with it. Let's sing the songs that everybody knows from the davening, right? Because everybody likes that. It's very important, so people join in. I said, but don't fetch it out. Then, move along at a nice pace. Insert the songs that people know, because sometimes people are looking for new songs that no one ever heard of. That defeats the purpose, and they can't join in. People want to join in. And that's it. I can get out at a reasonable time. Okay? Hopefully the rabbi won't go on too long when he speaks, you know what I'm saying? Which I always try to do. I try to give meaningful and to the point, but I didn't want to fetch it out either, like 10, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, but I always felt bad for the people, I don't want to make them suffer, especially on a fast day. Anyways, so what did he say to them? He said, but this guy's so quick, he's so short. So he says, no. He says, Amalhem klum makatze yosmi Moshe Rabbeinu. Is he any shorter? Is he davening any shorter than Moshe Rabbeinu? Dichsiv, it says about him, Kale, na, rafa, na, la. That's what? 5 words. 5 words. So, what are you complaining about him? He's not as short as Moshe. All right. So what emerges from this is that, but what's the idea? So should you daven long? Should you daven short? What determines? What determines when it's a long prayer, which is the case of 40 days and 40 nights, and what determines when it's a short prayer? Now, the case of the short prayer is what I want to take up today, because that's a story which we read recently, Baaloscha. Okay, and that he was mispalel for his sister, for Miriam. Okay, so why was it so short? Okay, Mamela for the Jews. Okay, 40 days and 40 nights. It seems a little bit lengthy. It seems excessive, but all right, well, we'll try and explain that. But when it came to his own sister, he 5 words, which is interesting because it shows you learn something from this. That sometimes you don't have the time or whatever it is. That it's okay. You can utter a short prayer as well. It doesn't always have to be so long. Okay, but I want to take up today the story of Miriam. Okay, let's go through the story. It's one you're familiar with. All right, you don't have a chumash in front of you, but that's all right. I'll go through the story, and it's a very strange kind of a case. It seems to be the classic illustration of lashon hara in the Torah. I mean, you see from this that lashon hara is dioraisa. It's also midioraisa. You see from but not one of the most illustrious people in our whole history is Miriam Hanaviyah. Okay, she's on a par. And according to the Revuen, she's on a par in terms of her nevuah with what a family. You have Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. My goodness, that's what you call yichus, I guess, huh? That's pretty good. And they're all, Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, was the Adon Hanaviyim. He was the master of the prophets. But Aaron and Miriam were up there too. Okay, but maybe that created a bit of a problem. You see? Sometimes when you're in the category of illustrious people, that could be a little bit of a problem over here. That as we will see. Okay, then it says, Vatadaber Miriam and Aaron spoke about Moshe. Oh my goodness, what did they speak about Moshe? Al odos ha'isha hakushis ashalaka. Consider that. See, you have to understand the Torah here is using euphemisms. You have to go with Rashi, pertaining to the Cushite woman that he had taken. But it's really a reference to his wife. Who was his wife? His wife was Tzipporah. She was not a Cushite woman. She was a Midianite. She was the daughter of Yisro. So Rashi gives reasons why the Torah is referring to her that way. That doesn't concern us at the moment. I'm not going to every aspect of the story, okay? Because we're focusing on certain major points. Ki isha kushis lokach, because he had taken a Cushite woman. The Torah is hinting at something. Okay, so the standard pshat, you see, the Torah hides a lot. The Torah is not saying what she said, really, a little bit of what she said, but what does it have to do with the Cushite woman? So the truth of the matter is like this. If you go through Rashi, and Rashi bases himself on Chazal, that Moshe divorced, don't tell anybody, Moshe divorced Tzipporah. He divorced Tzipporah, okay? The Torah does not describe that happening openly. The Torah describes marrying. What's the pshat? Why did he divorce her? Because of the Tzivui Hashem, by the command of God. And we learned that out because, as you know, all of Klal Yisrael had to separate from their wives for 3 days when they received the Torah. Okay, because of Kedusha, and they had to be Tahor, Har Sinai. Okay, so then after the 3-day period, after the event of Sinai is over, so Hashem told Moshe, tell Shuvu lahem la'olechem, they can return to their tents. You see, the Torah is Nikiya. The Torah doesn't discuss things openly, directly, okay, because of Kedusha. Everything is indirectly. That's why the Rambam says that Hebrew is Lashon HaKodesh, because it doesn't have a word, directly a word for the bodily functions, or for the sexual functions. Tashmish Amita, the use of the bed. It doesn't, you see, there's a certain elevation that, because that's like base. Words are very important. See, in today's society, well, I mean, I'm talking in American and Hebrew. I don't know how they say these things, so it's not a problem, you know. But there's certain types of words, as you know what I'm talking about. Everybody, it's like every other sentence, there's like a curse word. Deleted, expletive. It used to be deleted. It's not even deleted anymore. Now it's sayable, so to speak. Okay, that's a debasement of the culture. But in Lashon HaKodesh, you don't have words for that. It's only a euphemism, okay, because it's a holy language. Okay, so now Hashem said, tell them they can return to their tents, which is a very refined way of saying they can resume relations with husband and wife. Va'ata, but you, po amod imadi, you stay here with me. What does that mean? When you decode it, it's code. You can't return. You can't return to your wife. You stay here with me. What's the pshat? What does that mean? Why? Because, as we'll see, Moshe Rabbeinu reached a level of nevuah, of prophecy, that nobody before him ever reached, and nobody before him, after him rather, nobody after Moshe will ever reach. It's the highest level of prophecy, and as we see, Moshe had direct access to God. The other Nevi'im, no matter how great they were, did not have that access. Some of them prophesied once in their life. Some of them prophesied more. But every time the prophecy was over, that's it. They went back to normal life. And in order to get another prophecy, they had to prepare themselves and so on and so forth. And maybe Hashem would appear to them, maybe Hashem wouldn't appear to them. No Navi knew for sure. Oh, you see cases like that. Did Yaakov know what happened to Yosef? Yaakov was a Navi. That Nevuah was hidden from him. According to Chazal, Yitzchak knew. Yitzchak knew that Yosef was alive. It's amazing. Why didn't he tell? Couldn't tell because there was a ban. He was prevented from telling. Apparently, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want. That's something Yaakov had to live through. It's an amazing thing. But Moshe Rabbeinu, what did he do? When in MIDRASH also, when he gave the mitzvah of Pesach, of Karban Pesach in the second year, so there were people that were tamei, and they couldn't bring the Karban Pesach, so they came to Moshe and they complained. So what did Moshe say to them? Moshe said an amazing thing to them. He said, Imdu v'yeshma. Stand around and you'll hear, Ma yitzava Elochem Hashem. Moshe said, wait, just wait. Come on, Ki'ilu, it's all like he took out his phone. I have a phone. I can speak directly to God. And Hashem, that's no other Navi could say that. The same thing with the Benos Slavcha, when they had that question about inheritance. So Moshe had direct, that's Amodi Modi. You're not going back to, so because he always has to be at a level of Nevuah, which is the highest possible level, and he has to be Poresh from all the physical, all the instinctual things, you don't resume, that's it. You don't resume marriage. Now, Moshe didn't announce that. Moshe didn't make an announcement. He didn't tell anybody. But it turns out that Miriam apparently discovered it. According to Chazal, that, in the incident with Eldad and Medad were prophesying in the camp, when the word came to Moshe and Yeshua was there, that Eldad and Medad are prophesying, so she was there apparently, Miriam was there, and Zipporah was there. And Zipporah bemoaned, she said, oh my goodness, woe to the wives of these, because now they're not going to have a husband anymore. If they were Zokok, in other words, if now they're bound for Nevuah, they're not going to have a husband anymore. So then Miriam understood. What was Zipporah talking about? That she figured it out, that Moshe abandoned Zipporah. Okay? And why? Why? Apparently it had to do with the fact that he's an Navi. So she learned, she understood it to mean, Miriam's on a very high level. And she knows the Torah. So she interpreted it to mean that Moshe paskin, that he has to separate from his wife because he's a Navi. And a Navi can't be married. Okay, so now you'll understand what the pasuk says. So what did they say? Okay, Vayomru, and they said, Harak ach b'Moshe diber Hashem. Did God only speak to Moshe? Halo gam banu diber Hashem. God spoke to us too. In parentheses now, right? And we didn't separate from our marriages. So she made a deduction from herself. I'm a Navi, you're a Navi. And we know nobody told us, God never told us to separate. So where did Moshe, where's the guy? It's wrong. See, it's wrong. It's wrong. She felt that it's wrong. Because Judaism doesn't believe in that. That's a Goyish thing. That asceticism, by them, Lahavdil, the priests, they don't get married, whatever. We don't believe in that. Rav, whoever it is, everybody's obligated to get married and to have children and so on and so forth. Okay? So why did he separate? So she thought he was wrong. She didn't know. She didn't know that Moshe didn't do this on his own, that it was really from Hashem. But she made a comparison. She made a comparison between herself and Moshe. Therein lies the problem. Therein lies, as great as she was, really? You're comparing yourself to Moshe Rabbeinu? Now, what happens is, so now the pasuk says like this, V'yoish Moshe anav ma'od. This is an amazing parsha because it communicates to us certain fundamentals. The idea that the anivus of Moshe Rabbeinu. He was exceedingly humble. Mikala Adam Asher al Paneo Adama. From any person on the face of the earth. What do you see? The greater the person, the more humble he is. It's an amazing thing. All right? Unfortunately, some people that really think highly, like big shots, really they're not, I don't know. But the truly great, see, all the Gedolim, Moshe Feinstein and the Rav, all the truly great people are humble. Because, you know why? Because they know how little they know. You see, the only way you can know how little you know is if you know a lot. If you know a lot. See, the person that understands what's out there and the knowledge. See, a person like Einstein, he doesn't think he's a great physicist because he knows what he doesn't know. Compared to me, he knows a lot, but who cares? That doesn't mean anything compared. See, we always feel like a big shot because we're comparing ourselves to someone. You have people, in this shul, you know more than these guys. Yeah, that's right, so what? So they don't know very much. So the fact that you know more than someone that doesn't know very much, does that make you great? Do you know Kol HaTorah Kula? There's whatever you know, there's so much more in the Torah that you don't know. Why don't you think about that? And then you'll feel humble. Okay? Oh no, but I know more than this guy. So what? So I know more than someone who's ignorant. Why should that make? But it is. For some reason, people feel great about that. I don't know why. But the more you truly know, the more humble you become. Because you're aware of what you don't know. And how small you are in the scheme of things, and how grateful you are to Hashem for whatever He revealed to you. You mercifully grant us. Yeah, we don't even deserve this. The fact that God, that's the greatest gift that God gives us, is the gift of understanding. But we don't appreciate that. That's the first thing you pray for. Before you pray for refuah, before you pray for parnasa, in the Shemona Esrei, the very first thing you pray for is das. Because without das, what good is anything else in this world? I mean, you can win the biggest lottery. You can have $1 billion. Without das, it's not going to help you. That's an illusion. Most of the people that win the lottery, they get destroyed by it. It drives them crazy. Okay? So without das, there's no bracha really. There's no bracha without das. Because any bracha that Hashem gives you requires that you use it intelligently. So the first thing is, you see, that's what Shlomo HaMelech asked for das, for understanding. Anyways, he was the honor of Ma'od. It's telling us this because Moshe was machal. He wasn't upset. He didn't care. He didn't need to rebuke Miriam. Fine, he didn't care. But Hashem took up the case, so to speak. Vayamar Hashem pisom el Moshe v'el Aaron v'el Miriam. So God now addressed the three of them that they should all come to the Ohel Moed. And they went to the Ohel Moed. Vayered Hashem ba'onan. God doesn't come down. That's the way the Torah describes it. God manifested His presence. And He stood by Pesach Ohel Moed. Okay? And then God called Aaron and Miriam. Now, this whole parsha, which we'll go through rather quickly, this parsha now reveals to us the unique character of Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu, which the Rambam in his 13 principles, one of the principles is you must believe in Nevuah. Person doesn't believe in Nevuah, so he's a kofar in Torah. Because Torah, divine revelation, depends upon a Navi. Fine. But then he has a separate principle, a separate ikah, not just to believe in Nevuah, to believe in the special Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu, which was peh, mouth to mouth, face to face, direct communication. The other prophets don't have direct communication. They see a vision, and then they have to interpret it. Okay? Sometimes the Torah just tells you the vision. Sometimes it tells you the interpretation without telling you the vision. So it seems as though God spoke to them directly, but He did not. Like like in the case of Paro, for example. He had a dream. He didn't know what it meant. The 7 cows, the fat cows, the skinny cows, this and that. But Yosef, who was a Navi, was able to interpret it. Because the Navi knows how to interpret. He knows the code. Okay, except for Moshe Rabbeinu. So let's just go through this quickly. So what did He say to them? Shimuna, hear my words. If there be amongst you a Navi, God will appear to him in a vision. See, it's not direct, it's a vision. Okay, or in a dream. So he doesn't get the message. He's not in his normal waking state. Like we're in a normal waking state, we're talking to each other. Either he's in a prophetic state, like a trance-like kind of a state, and certain things come to him, certain images, or he's sleeping and he has a dream. And he's able to determine that it's not an ordinary dream. That's a whole subject. How do you know if it's a regular dream I'm sure people guys may have dreams, right? And you wonder, right? Sometimes your dreams can come true. All right? You wonder, is this a message from Hashem or whatever it is? I don't know. But Hashem does communicate to a Navi in a dream. Okay. Lo chen avdi Moshe. Not so my servant Moshe. This is a very strong pasuk. I remember the Rav Soloveitchik, Zechron Levracha. You've heard of Rav Soloveitchik, I'm sure. You've all heard of him. He used to, when he spoke, he said, Lo chen avdi Moshe. In other words, he appreciated the meaning that Moshe Rabbeinu is in a different category. Is he a real human being? Or is he some different kind of a being? Well, yeah, he's a human being, but in trying to evaluate him, like for example, if you study the Rambam, okay, you read the works of the Rambam, the Mishnah Torah, the Moreh Nevuchim, that kind of a knowledge and an understanding, not just him, but many. And was he really a human being? I can't imagine that a human mind can grasp all of that. And the other, it's hard for me. I mean, I know there's smart people out there, there's geniuses out there, but I can't imagine that the Rambam is an ordinary human being. It's like a higher type of a being. It's interesting. Chazal do say in Rishonim, if the early scholars, if they're like angels, then we're human beings. If they're human beings, then we're like animals. In other words, they're expressing the fact, they didn't mean that literally, but they're expressing the fact that qualitatively speaking, we're not in the same ballpark. We're not in the same ballpark. Okay, that's an amazing thing. Anyways, we strive. We strive to understand them and to learn from them and all of that. That's why it's so important. See, this is on my mind. That's why it's so important, especially today, in a lot of these movements, they want to make changes. They want to institute the changes in the Torah, with many, many issues, like they know better. And even among Orthodox, I mean, there's with women rabbis and so on and so forth. And, these matters have been determined by the greatest. We're not on that level to make these kind of changes. I'm not saying that they may have worthwhile motive. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying, hold on a second. Let's be humble. This is the system of Torah that has been passed down to us by the greatest geniuses. We're not on that level that we can decide that we'll make a little bit of a change over here. I'm opposed to that. Anyways, so the message is Lo chen avdi Moshe. You're talking about someone. He's different than you, not just greater than you. They knew he was greater. See, didn't they know that Moshe was greater than them? So what do you make in comparison? We didn't have to separate, but Moshe is different. Yeah, but they knew that Moshe was greater, but they didn't know he was different. What's the difference between the two? See, greater can be quantitatively speaking. Like you'll have in sports, let's say in tennis, for example, you'll have 2 or 3 like they're the best. I don't know if you people follow. The same thing in basketball at any given moment. Now I was a kid, baseball, Mickey Mantle, you had Willie Mays, he always had, so I was a Yankee fan, you always had these arguments. Who's greater? Okay? The answer is they're both pretty much the same. It's just give or take a little bit. On any given day, he might be. They're in the same league. Okay? I'm just using it as a mashal. That, in my opinion, is how they knew that Moshe went up to Har Sinai. They didn't. So they knew that he was greater. Yeah, but not in that different. Not different. Like he's a totally different kind of a being. The rules that apply to me don't apply to him. They didn't see that.
That's what Korach did.
Korach, yeah, of course. Korach was much worse, though. Korach was a rebel. They weren't rebel. By the way, I want to make it clear. Rashi says, they didn't have bad motives. It's amazing why this is even Lashon Hara, because she thought he made a mistake. She wasn't doing it to belittle him. She wasn't doing it to criticize him. This is Miriam. Miriam, she waited by the Nile, waited to see what would happen to Moshe. And then she ran to get her mother to be the nurse. She was totally dedicated to him. And Aaron too. Aaron was happy. Aaron was the older brother, but he was happy to be Mashamish Moshe when they went to Paro. Neither one of them had bad motives. They thought he made a mistake. Even that is Lashon Hara, interestingly enough. Why? Because Hashem says, and then God delineated, God expressed the various ways that his nevuah was unique. First of all, b'chal beis yinem anu. In all of my house, he's the most trustworthy. Pe el pe adavavo. Mouth to mouth, I speak now. Okay? Umar evalo b'chidos usmuras Hashem yah. In other words, his nevuah is totally different than yours. He doesn't get dreams. Dreams and visions is a lower level of nevuah. In terms of the closeness, in terms of the understanding, in terms of the communication, Moshe Rabbeinu received direct communication, word for word. Hashem told, right, Bereshis bar Elokim, word for word. He didn't see visions and then he had to interpret them. Moshe Rabbeinu was on the highest level of precision. Okay, and he was not in a special state, asleep. He was wide awake. Like way we communicate with each other, wide awake, direct, words. I'm not giving you images and you have to figure out what I'm talking about. Direct, you see? That is a completely different level. Okay? And what's the rebuke? Umadua lo yeresem ledaber ba'avdi b'Moshe. In other words, God didn't say that, you were wrong. No. Why weren't you afraid to speak about my servant Moshe? You had no right to speak about him. Because in doing so, you were making a comparison between Moshe and yourself. That means that you must be on the same level. Oh, you're a Navi. You're a great Navi, but you're not different. That's only Moshe Rabbeinu. This category, one person occupies that category forever. There'll never be another Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, there'll be a Mashiach, Melech HaMashiach, but that doesn't surpass. He's not on the same level. He's up there, but he's close. I think the Revuen used the expression close to Moshe Rabbeinu. But you can't, right? Lo yokem od kamoshe. There'll never arise another Navi. So, what business did you have talking about him? This is we all can learn from all of this. Yeah? Don't be tempted to talk about somebody. Don't be tempted to talk about somebody. Because, I'm not saying he's Moshe Rabbeinu, but you don't know. You don't know. Look, if you have to, sometimes you have to criticize because it's necessary. You know what I'm saying? But most of the Lashon Hara, the gossip that we speak, is not necessary, nor is it beneficial. And why? You don't even know anyways. Okay? Because if somebody should speak about you or something, okay, and you would find out about it, you say, the person doesn't know what I've been through, this, that, what are you talking? What do you know? So why? The same thing works the other way. We should fear. The best thing is, with regard to these matters, is why? See, the thing is like this. People have a natural desire for lust. The whole society is steeped. The internet, my God, revealing juicy things. It's a terrible type of aggression. The internet, the bullying, and so on and so forth. I think the problem is because people don't have what to use their minds. If you're learning, if you have in the world of ideas, after a while, who cares? Why do I need to know what this person did? As a rabbi, I have many students over the years. I counsel people. With their problems and their and so on and so forth. Okay, so they come to me, they tell me stuff, private stuff. Gotta be private, I can't share with them. But I need to listen carefully because I'm trying to help them. So that's not Lashon Hara. If you're listening to something, what happened in a person, okay. But if they're not asking for my help, so why would I be interested in the details of somebody else's life? I have no interest whatsoever. I don't want to hear about it. You got to wean yourself away. People need to wean themselves away. You'll see. You just don't indulge. It's like smoking. If you don't indulge it, it'll go away. It'll get weaker and weaker. The same thing with Lashon Hara. You've got to, when you feel it, you hear something, go out away, and then like ask yourself, what would that have benefited me? What emotion, what insecurity in me is going to be addressed, is going to be massaged if I heard that thing about the other guy? That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not helping you out in any way. Oh, you may feel, wow, he did that. Oh, I would never do this. So what? Maybe you would never do that, but you would do plenty of other things. So I'm just saying it's not helpful. It's not a helpful thing. And redirect your energy. You should be curious, not about that. You should be curious about ideas, about knowledge, about Torah, and so forth. Anyways, Vayicharaf Hashem. So that was the rebuke. That was the rebuke. Even though she did not have any bad motives, but she was mistaken because she failed to appreciate the uniqueness of Moshe Rabbeinu. And you know who else failed to this story is connected to what other story? What story is this connected to in the Torah? What comes next? The Meraglim.
No.
Meraglim. They spoke Lashon Hara. They failed to recognize the uniqueness of Eretz Yisrael. Okay? They failed to recognize the uniqueness. That was the same thing. Even though they weren't speaking about a person. But it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily speaking about a person. It's distorting the nature of something because of their weakness. They were afraid. So rather than, had they admitted we're afraid that we saw these giants, forget about it, that would have been okay. Okay, you're a human being. But they didn't do that. Instead, what did they do? They said the problem is not us, the problem is the land. They shifted the blame onto the land. The land is not a good land. See, that's where it becomes Lashon Hara. Now, so what happens? So then Hashem departs, and then the Anan, the cloud, disappears, and what happened? V'hinei Miriam etzaras kashola. Miriam was like snow. She was smitten with leprosy. It's not really leprosy, by the way. That's a misnomer. It's not the disease of leprosy. We call it saras. It's a skin manifestation. It's not leprosy because it can afflict your garments. So it can't be, there's no disease like that. Okay? And Aaron turned to Miriam, and she was smitten with saras. Okay? Then Aaron said to Moshe, he turned to Bi Adoni, please do not cast sin upon us. We acted foolishly and we sinned. Please let her not be like a mace. Let her not be like someone who's dead. For when she comes forth from the womb of her mother and half of her skin. In other words, he's pleading with her. It's like a terrible thing, like a child is born and half of the skin is consumed. So what happened? Vayitzak Moshe el Hashem. And Moshe called out. He literally screamed, but it means he prayed. He prayed to God saying, Kel, Na, Rafa, Na, La. 2 Nas, please. God, please. Heal, please. Her. Wow. So that was, what's the idea? It was a very short prayer. What's the idea behind that? Okay, that's what I want. That brings us back to where we started. And that is, there are 2 cases. One is both of them Moshe Rabbeinu. The first case, Moshe prays for 40 days and 40 nights. And the second case, 5 words. I guess 30 seconds. I don't know how long this takes. Less than 30 seconds. Okay. So what's the idea behind that? What determines? Why is it that in this situation, very, very long? In the other situation, very, very short? Okay. Does anyone have any ideas before we go further?
You mentioned one earlier.
Go ahead.
The first case was davening for Klal Yisrael, Tzibor. The second case is davening for Yochid, one person. Okay,
that's a good distinction. That's definitely a good distinction. Everyone hears that. I'll continue in a second. I just want to repeat what he said so everybody hears it. And that is, in the first instance, he was davening for Klal Yisrael. In the second instance, he wasn't davening for Klal Yisrael. He was a very, very important person. Very important person, but it was just for a Yachid, so it's going to be different. Okay, there are other factors as well, but that's definitely a good start. Yes, I'm sorry.
There was a grandmother, she mentioned, she said, sometimes you have to scream to Hashem that he will listen. So it looks for me, Moshe was screaming with all his feelings. His sister. When Gabriel sends me a telephone, a name from somebody to pray, I have no relation with that person. Okay, maybe even you forget it. But for you, sister, you take all your feelings, you scream to Hashem.
That's a good point, by the way. It's an excellent point. Today with the internet, people are always getting names. Pray for this one, pray for that one. But the person has no idea who he's praying for. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, ideally, when you pray for something, you have some feeling. This means something to you. But in that case, you're just going through the motions. You're just uttering a prayer, but you have no feeling for it. So it's always better. That is to say, instead of just putting a name out there, which nobody has any idea who they're praying, it's always better to maybe you put a little message, a few sentences of who this person is, what this person is about. But it's much better if the people who are mispalel for you care and they understand, it means something to them. As we'll soon see. If that's the case, who should be praying the most? Who should be praying the most for somebody? The person himself. The person, you should be mispal yourself, because the one who's suffering, right? The one who's suffering feels it the most. Now, if we take a look at the Chumash, okay, let's take a look at some other cases of tefillah in the Chumash, which might shed light on it. Where else do you find what might be called a lengthy prayer in the Chumash? I would cite two instances over here, because first of all, Avraham Avinu, right? He was mispal. Who was he mispal for? By the way, they were total strangers.
Maybe the
For Sodom.
agenda, he was walking 3 days.
For Sodom and Amorah,
Oh.
right? For Sodom and Amorah. That's interesting, because they were, not only that, but they were Rishayim. Yeah, but he was concerned about the tzaddikim, ulai. Maybe there's certain tzaddik. Don't destroy the whole city, because there might be certain tzaddikim over there. But that's a lengthy prayer. Okay? He prays with him. He's like bargaining. He's like bargaining with him. Maybe we'll find 50 tzaddikim and so on. And so on. Hashofet kol haaretz. He's arguing from every angle. Oh, then when God agreed, well, let's go about. It's interesting, the bargaining. Oh, now let's talk about 40. Right? I assume we've all seen that kind of stuff. Oh, 40? Yeah, 1 second, maybe 30. I mean, that's the way it sounds, superficially. But you see that it's not a quick, abbreviated prayer. Okay? Another example is the case of Moshe. When Moshe was on the mountain, and Hashem told him to go down because they've worshiping the golden idol, the Egel Hazav, right? So immediately Moshe prays. Before he goes down, he prayed. Okay? There too, it wasn't so brief. Okay? It says, Vayachal Moshe es pnei Hashem elokav. Moshe beseeched the face or the countenance of God. So, Lama Hashem yecharap. Why should you get your anger at that you took out of Egypt with such great power and might? Oh, listen to this. Why should the Egyptians say? Moshe is concerned about what the Egyptians are going to say. But with evil, God took them out to kill them in the mountains and to destroy them from the face of the earth. Return from your anger and turn around from doing this evil to you. Wow. What's he bringing up the Egyptians?
Mm-hmm.
Moshe's bringing up the Egyptians. Well, how is that going to make matters better for the... Then Zachor li Avram. Then he brings up another argument. Oh, remember, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yisrael, the ones that you made a bris with, right? And that you said that you would increase their children like the stars of the heaven, okay? And that all this land you're going to give to their children. All the promises you made to the others. How are you going to? What's going to happen to all the promises you made to the others? So Moshe is coming up with all kinds of ideas and thoughts, right? It's not Kael Rafana Allah, not like 5 words. He's got a lot of stuff over here. It's in 2 psukim. It could have been longer, by the way. The Torah is just conveying the essence. The Torah, but when you read a discussion in the Torah, the Torah is not like a transcript. It could be that the conversation was longer, but the Torah is only conveying the essence of the conversation. But here you see that it's not a short matter. It's not a short matter. So this is what I want to give my take. I mean, your instincts were very, very good in terms of how you approach the subject. But I think there's different kinds of prayer. In the case 40 days and 40 nights, okay, as I forgot the name already, I'm sorry. Yechiel, I'm sorry. Each person should wear a thing with their name on it. This makes it easier for me. When I was young, I was a teacher, and like one day I'd get 35, 40 kids in a class, I'd get the names. Now it's so hard for me. I don't know what it is. So, anyways, I feel bad if I don't know somebody's name. I have to so you'll have to forgive me if I ask, Anyways, that effect, that was pertaining to all of Klal Yisrael. But one second, they were guilty. Hashem was going to punish them, rightfully so. It's not like they weren't guilty, right? So it's not so simple. It's always hard in a case, you want to get a judge, you want to get a court to overturn a verdict. That's always hard, okay? The time to protect the person is before the verdict, like make your greatest effort the first time around. Here, the Jews were guilty. What's he going to say? They did the worst Aveira in the world, which is Avodah Zarah. So now it's it's not just praying, please don't do this, Hashem. No, you see that prayer involves more. You got to come up with ideas. You got to come up with ideas, possibilities. Hashem, it's not like people think it's just a passive. We're all passive and, oh, Hashem, I need this miracle. No. You have to get involved in the case. You have to come up with ideas and then you present them before God. Possibilities. Okay? The same thing. You can't just, it's like Rav Aviner. I don't know if you heard of Rav Aviner. He's a big Rav in Yerushalayim.
Shlomo Cohen.
Okay? And he sends out, they have these texts. He gets questions and, answers on text. He sends them out. So this person wanted him to give him, a segula for Parnasa. Like some kind of a charm that segula, so he should make. He said, a segula for Parnasa, learn a trade, learn a profession. You'll have, whatever it is, that's a segula for Parnasa. Meaning you have to take responsibility. You have to get involved. You don't just sit back and let God do the work for you. No, you like Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov prepared. He divided the camps. He prepared a doron, like a diplomacy, a payoff, whatever it is. And then he was mispalel. But you didn't just rely on tefillah. You can't just rely on tefillah. And in the tefillah itself, it has to be with seichel. You have to study the situation. You have to, this possibility. Hashem, if you save them, well, maybe if I do such and such, or if we do that, maybe that'll take them over the, just sit back. 40 days and 40 nights. There's a lot of deliberation going on. I don't think he was just repeating the same mantra over and over and over again. I think he was opening up his mind and he was learning and he was understanding. What can we do better? If we do this, if we do the other thing. You see, so that took 40 days and 40 nights because it was the tzibur, but also it was a complicated task because they had fallen into the worst Aveira possible. How am I going to pull them out of it? It was a learning experience as well. See, and similarly, when Abraham was mispalel for Sodom and Amorah, they were guilty. Interesting. You don't find Avram praying for Yitzchak. Everybody always asks that question by the Akedah. He doesn't pray for Yitzchak. But and the same thing with Moshe. The same thing with Moshe Rabbeinu. And that is when Moshe Rabbeinu, when Hashem told him that the Jews had sinned with the Egel, so he had to pray for them because God said, I'll get rid of them. I'll start a new nation from you. That's what Hashem told Moshe. Okay? He made him a great, so to speak, a great offer. I'll start a new nation from you. Moshe didn't want that. So, but once I have to come up with some idea. What idea am I going to come up with? On what basis am I going to? You see what I'm saying? It's not so simple to just pray. What are you praying for? The person sinned. He's found guilty. He has to be executed. Well, we can't pray. If somebody is found guilty by the Sanhedrin because he committed a capital offense, they have to kill him. It's very rare, by the way. Judaism has the death penalty, but it's extremely rare, hardly ever. But let's assume it does happen. Let's assume that we can't do it today because we don't have a Sanhedrin. Okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to pray, don't execute him. What do you mean don't execute him? He's guilty and that's it. If you have a reason why there was a mistake, the witnesses are, that's something else. But stam to pray, don't execute him on what basis? So Moshe Rabbeinu found the basis. What was the basis that Moshe Rabbeinu found? Lama Yom Mitzrayim. Oh, he's not saying they don't deserve to be killed. They deserve it. But if you do it, it's going to create a tremendous, Hashem, because the whole world will say that God didn't have, Hashem, you can't do that because, see that argument works. Also, he's arguing, and another thing. You were going to get rid of this nation and start another one from me. Yeah, but what about this one that had the 3 avos? The foundation of 3 avos, if that's not sufficient to get them through, that's chus. So me, I'm just one person. How is that? See, arguments. He wasn't just saying, please don't do that. He looked into the situation and he elevated himself to a higher level of understanding. On that basis, Hashem, maybe that's a basis for us to go forward. If you want to go forward, you have to come up with a foundation to go forward. Okay, those are the 2 cases. What about the case of of Miriam. What about the case of Miriam? 5 words? Nothing? No ideas? No nothing. Okay? Why? Why wasn't there more effort? It was a good, not that he did anything wrong, it was a good tefillah. I'm just saying, but why? How do we understand that? Moshe, in all of the other cases, he was creative. He was thinking, here, please, here. 2 nods. See, I think the thing is like this. Miriam was a tzaddikus. Why did she even deserve? Why did she even deserve to get saras? As we said, she didn't have bad intentions. Okay? But there's another concept. You might have heard this concept. That God judges tzaddikim, k'chut asara, like a thin, God judges the tzaddikim much more demanding, right? Like the thread, because Hashem expects more. So, all right, you got to be careful. You want to be a bigger tzaddik, that's good, but then you're going to be held, so to speak. Hashem holds you to a different standard because you should know better. So maybe that's the case with Miriam, but Miriam deserved to be healed. She's a tzaddikus. She made a mistake. All right. Is there such a thing as a person that goes through life and doesn't make a mistake? I don't care how big of a tzaddik. There's no koheles. There's no that person that just does good and never sins. It's an impossibility. We're weak by nature. Adam Harishon didn't take long. Chabad didn't take long. Kayin, it doesn't take long. Everybody's going to sin. But see, that's not the Goyish view, by the way. They hold that man is evil by nature. We don't say man is evil. He's a sinner, you sin, but you do tshuva. See, Judaism, Christianity, puts the emphasis on sin. What do we put the emphasis on tshuva. A person can always do tshuva, and the Baal tshuva is on a higher level because he was involved in sin and he pulled himself out. As a result of tshuva, you put yourself closer to Hashem than the person who never sinned before. So what was the basis? See, I think the basis of Moshe, when Moshe prayed for Miriam, it wasn't that he was in a hurry and he had no time and just tossed it out. No. See, when Shlomo HaMelech, when he dedicated the Beis HaMikdash, so this is Malachim Aleph, chapter Ches. See, describes the situation. People can come from all over the world when they experience a famine and this. They'll come to this place. They'll come to this house. And they'll be mispalel to you. That's the choice place. What's the best place in the world to pray? The best place is where Jews can't pray. It's really by the Temple Mount, the Har HaBayis. That's by the Beis HaMikdash. So I'm not getting into that one. Okay? That was Biyadenu for a few minutes, and then some people decided to give back, basically. That's a painful one. Anyways, though, listen to this pasuk. Then, among many psukim, you will listen and you'll forgive them. It's a beautiful, beautiful parak about the Kabbalah Tefillah, that God accepts the Tefillah and forgives. Then he says, Kol Tefillah, every prayer, Kol Techina, every petition, Asher Tiyeh L'chol Adam, that might be for all people, L'chol Amcha Yisrael, for all their nation Israel, Asher Yedun, Ish Nega Levavo. Each person knows the nega levavo. Nega means the thing that's bothering you in the heart. It's like a plague, but the thing that plagues your heart. So that's why I said, the one that should pray is the one that feels it. When you feel that, okay? Nige libo, you have a right. Paras kappa v'labayis says that, and I'll spread towards this house. You see, the place, the makom that's associated with Kabbalah Tefillah is the Beis HaMikdash. So the place of the Beis HaMikdash, the so-called Temple Mount, is superior as a place to daven than the Kotel. Kotel is the outer wall. It's not the Har HaBayis. I know there's problems with the Har HaBayis. There are those who say you can't go up there. I know, but there are ways where you can get close, where it's definitely okay. Okay. But I mean, if you're going to go, you got to go with experts that know how far you can go and so on and so forth. But if they catch you davening up there, you can be in a bit of trouble. So what is the basis? A lot of times, there's something trivial it's really trivial. Can I be mispalel? Can I pray my team? I'm a big Yankees fan. Can I pray that they should win the World Series? Or it could be here, Haifa versus whatever, Tel Aviv, I don't know. Right? Or let's say you have a pet. Sounds crazy, we're ashamed to admit it. You have a pet, the dog, and you like the dog, and the dog has got a little machin, a little illness, and can you pray that it'll get better? So I don't know, well, do you feel comfortable praying to God to heal an animal? Yeah, but it's nigei libo. Nigei libo bothers you. It bothers you. It doesn't have to be objectively important in the scheme of things, but it bothers you. It's on my mind. It troubles me. So you can be, yeah, why not? Now, when you pray for somebody else, that he should get better, and he gets better, what does your prayer have to do with him? How did it help him? You can pray for, see what you're saying is, that's why your point was very important. When you're praying for somebody else, you're not just mumbling, you're saying, it bothers me. I feel bad that so answer me, in order to make me feel better, cure him. You see, you're really asking for yourself. When you're mispal to Hashem, you're asking for yourself. But it happens that what I need for myself is that somebody else. It could be your own child. It could be a friend. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be directly of you, but it pertains to you. It bothers you. Nigei libo. It bothers me in the heart. So I'm pouring out. You see, that's what I want. That's what I want to say. That the tefillah of Moshe was based on two ideas. First of all, it's Miriam, law. Rafana, law. It's not just an ordinary person. This is Miriam. She's a tzaddikus. All right, so she made a mistake. Moshe is mochela. He's mochela. But because of her greatness, because all people look up to her, she shouldn't have to go around with the tzaras. Okay? And then it bothers me. It bothers 5, sometimes less is more. Ironically, there are times in life where we talk too much. It's an interesting thing. Sometimes you don't talk enough. You should have pleaded more. During the Holocaust, the Jews didn't talk enough. They didn't, with Israel, they talk a lot. But then they didn't talk enough. They did a short tefillah when it should have been a long tefillah. And it should have been repeated over and over again. The conscience of America, how can you sleep at night? 12,000 Jews are being killed, men, women, children being killed in Auschwitz every day. How can you sleep at night? That should have been repeated. Like Mordechai went into the streets and he screamed a loud and bitter scream. The Rav said that the Jews in America didn't. He said, we all have to achai for that. Sometimes it's a short prayer. Sometimes we talk too much. All right? And it's a good idea. Look into your own lives. When do I tend to go on and on and on? All right? So you made your point already. Sometimes people that need or are collecting, okay, you made your point, I got it. And they keep going on, and then you don't know endless is endless. You don't have to. You made your point, and more is less. Sometimes less is more. Moshe Rabbeinu expressed that it's nigei libo. That's why there's 2 nahs. Kel nah, God, please listen to the pain of my heart. That was the first nah. Rafa nah. La, har. There's another har. Take into consideration 2 things. The pain of my heart. So I'm saying his prayer for Miriam was based upon nigei libo. That a person has the right, when he's pained in the heart, to come before Hashem and pour out his grief to Hashem. You have a right to do that. Because you've been created by God. And that's life, and you have a right to come before God. And the second idea was, who am I praying for? This is not an ordinary person. You can't pray for an ordinary person, but I'm just, objectively speaking, we're talking about Miriam. This is a tremendous situation here, tremendous need, that a tzaddikus on this level shouldn't have to go around like that. So that's why it's tefillah ketzara. No need to say more. When you can come, it's funny. The Rabbi Soloveitchik comes to, Brisk, the house of Brisk, and that derech of learning. So he used to say, they're very, very, very brief and concise. They didn't believe in wordiness. He says, my father, when he learned this Torah from his father, Rav Moshe Soloveitchik, he said, when he taught me, if I said something, an idea, if it could be said in 6 words, and I use 7 words, he would correct me.
Wow.
Brief, right? Don't gab, no excessive verbiage. Clarity. You see? So there's a time, at the same time, when you're teaching people, when you're teaching children, you got to make sure they understand it. If it's too brief, then you gotta know how to elucidate it. You gotta give examples. You gotta be patient. You see? So it's very, very important. It's very important in life to learn these ideas. When it's important to be expansive, to go on, to explain. When it's important, however, to be brief, right to the point. But in any case, that when we approach God in tefillah, we should do our best to see that it's not just the saying words, but it's the kavanah, the intention of the heart, and hopefully Hashem will always answer our tefillahs. Okay, thank you very much.
Amen.